So we've got a little aquarium here and we will talk you through step by step what's involved. So this is a hand-me-down fish tank. So in this case, the light isn't actually working. So we will try replacing the bulbs, but these compact bulbs are very old and they're getting quite hard to get hold of because everything these days is LED. As far as a fish tank is concerned, there is absolutely no reason why the fish need the light. Ambient lighting is definitely enough. If you had plants or corals or something photosynthetic, then you would need a light. But not having a light is definitely a huge disadvantage because you're really not going to enjoy the tank at nighttime like you could. So if you're going to have a nice tank, you may as well have a light, but you've also got to start somewhere. So if this is where you've got to start, then that's fine. So the key would be to start learning a little bit about aquarium care. God, that was a good catch. So the idea would be learn as much as you can about aquarium care and then consider upgrading, because with aquariums, where you start's not where you finish. It's very common that people will start with a very basic tank and then they'll get the bug, they'll learn about it, and then they'll want to upgrade. The other thing you have to be aware of with aquariums is you've got to be pretty, you got to have realistic expectations. So what typically happens with most people is they get an aquarium, they set it all up, they get it running well, and they really love it. And then for about a year, they love it, and then for a year, they like it, and then they've sort of seen it. So if you get to a point where your tank's really happening and you find you just don't watch it anymore, that's pretty normal. So, I mean, you can speak to people that have multi-million-dollar water views that hardly even look at it, and you tend to appreciate things when they change or when there's someone here to appreciate it with you. So if you find that you can walk past your aquarium without looking at it, then the best thing to do is change. So whether that means change some of your decorations or change your fish, the change is what keeps you interested and the change is what keeps you learning. So the other thing about fish is the more you learn about your fish, the more you identify with them and the more you enjoy them. So make sure that you're checking our YouTube channel regularly, or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, and try and just watch the videos on a regular basis, even if it's just when you get a moment alone. Maybe you might be taking a dump. That's a great time to watch a video or two. And so even if you watch videos that you don't think that you need to learn about, in general, over time, as you learn more, you'll find that your interest will increase and you'll get a lot more out of the hobby. So the key to this hobby is learning about it. And our YouTube channel makes it very, very easy to learn. You can just go to the YouTube channel and in the search bar, you can write anything you want and it comes up with videos to teach you about that particular subject. As far as the water is concerned, if you fill up the aquarium with tap water, then we need to allow it time to heat up if you want tropical fish. In this case, we've got a heater in the back of it. The light will only turn on when the temperature is below what the heater is set for. But the heater has a thermostat in it and that sets the temperature, but you want an actual thermometer that's going to tell you what the temperature actually is. So in this case, we're just going to put a thermometer in there and find out what the temperature is. If you have temperate or cold water fish, then you pretty much don't need to worry too much about the temperature. There's a whole range of fish you could get that are temperate water, which do not need a heater. So things like Madakas, golden mountain clouds, zebra danios, rosy barbs, sucking catfish, peppered cories. So there's a whole range of fish that you could potentially get without a heater. But in this case, we've got a heater. So we're going to try and keep the tank between sort of 26 and anything up to 28 degrees. So it's the thermometer that tells us the temperature and the heater sets the temperature. So assuming we've put tap water in there and then we've allowed the temperature to heat up to, in this case, 26 degrees, the next thing we need to do is make sure that we've aged the water. So this one here is to go in the water with all new water. So that means top up and water change. So water change means you take water out and then you're going to put water in. And that's going to diffuse accumulants and various waste that's in the water. And if you don't touch the tank for a while, you'll be amazed how quickly the water goes down, because evaporation, depending where you live, can be severe. So you're topping the water up. Every single time the water goes in the tank, it's safer to put prime in, water ager. If it's only a little top up, it's not the end of the world. But this is your go-to every time you add new water. Now this one here is going to raise the KH and pH Now, it's depending on your water, but Sydney tap water tends to have a high pH, but tends to have a very low KH. So adding a little bit of this one in water changes is very important. And a lot of people will even add this in top-ups depending on what their level is, because the fish produce acids and the acids make the pH go down. So therefore we need to raise the pH up again. So we can do that using water changes, or we can do that by adding this particular product. Now, adding a bit of salt is also very good for your fish, because salt is one of the best things to help the fish's immune system and to stimulate their body slime. But you only add salt in a water change. You add salt initially, and then you add salt if you're taking water out. And you add salt for the water you take out, not for the water you put back in, because the salt does not evaporate. So if you top up, no salt. If you water change, then you add salt. And if you bring a sample of water down to the store, we can test your salt and we can test the rest of your levels, which is what we'll go through in a minute. So this is a little molly, and a molly is a very easy to keep fish, and it tends to live at the top of the tank. You'll notice that some fish, like a molly, has got a mouth that opens up, and that means they're a top dweller. Then other fish, you'll see the mouth opens forward. They're mid dwellers. Then you'll find fish where the mouth opens down. They're basically bottom dwellers. So it's quite good, particularly in bigger aquariums, to get a range of top, middle and bottom dwellers, just so they're not getting in each other's way as much. Now these balls we're adding are called marine pure balls. And now what the marine pure balls will do is act like a compost heap, because these balls will grow parallel nitrifying and denitrifying bacteria. And the bacteria that grows in these balls help to break the waste from your fish down. So your fish produce waste in the form of ammonia. Then the ammonia is broken down by bacteria. Bacteria that grow on these balls and bacteria that grow in the filter. And that breaks the ammonia into nitrite. Then different bacteria comes along, and that will grow in and on these balls and in and on your filter. The bacteria will also grow all over your decorations, your gravel and everything. Any surface area will end up with bacteria on it, and that all helps to keep your fish healthy. So these balls are a wonderful thing. In this case, it's not going to fit in the filter, so we can just hide them in the back of the tank. We don't need to see them. So you don't need to show anyone your balls, and you don't need to see your balls. You can hide your balls, and it's also very important how you wash your balls. You don't ever want to just get your balls out and just wash them in the tap, because if you go being rough and washing your balls in the tap, then you're going to wash all the good bacteria off your balls. It's much more important to keep the bacteria alive. So therefore, either don't wash your balls at all and just let them be biological, or if you have to, drain a bit of water out of the aquarium, gently wash your balls. So once you gently wash your balls, then you can put them back in. Now these little fellas are called neon tetras, and they're beautiful in a school. But just be aware that neon tetras aren't necessarily the toughest fish in the world. So they're quite cheap to buy. But if you did lose the odd neon, don't go freaking out about it, because they're not the toughest fish ever. Also be aware that a lot of fish, their natural life isn't as long as some people would like. For example, 1 to 2 years is a pretty normal life for something like a neon. Now, you do hear stories of people getting a lot longer out of their fish, but with these little fellas, if you considered 1 to 2 years, is pretty normal. The bigger fish like the mollies, which will grow a little bit larger, let's say 2 to 4 years is not so unusual. And then some of the bigger species of fish might live more like 7 to 10 years. But it is important to remember that fish don't actually live forever. And if you're going to get little fish, and over time, some of the little fish die off, that's pretty normal. So don't go stressing out too much about that, because you need to be aware of what the natural life of the fish are. So in this case, we've just got a couple of bags of fish. We're going to let them float in there for about 20 minutes to half an hour, just to acclimatise the temperature. Then we're going to let the fish out. Now, it's really important that we do not add any new fish for about 2 weeks, because we need the bacteria to establish for the fish that are in there before we can put more fish in that produce waste. So basically a little bit of fish, and it's good not to feed them for the first 2 days. And then we can add a little, we can test the water. Once we test the water, we can add some more fish.